The gratification of the senses is peculiar to humans, and it is to this trait that we are indebted for all the arts. The activities which aimed at the gratification of the eye and ear developed into the creative arts and music, and in like manner human endeavor directed toward the stimulation of the sense of smell has in our time assumed the proportions both of an art and a science. It was nothing but the advancement of chemistry that made it possible to fix all the pleasant odors offered by nature and to create new perfumes by the artistic combination of these scents. The preparation of perfumes is a very ancient art that is met with among all peoples possessed of any degree of civilization. It is particularly the ancient nations of the ancient Near East which had in truth become masters in the manufacture of numerous perfumes. The first perfume was the fragrant flower. The sprig of dried lavender flowers which was placed in the clothespress was probably used for the same purpose by the contemporaries of Aristotle. In the Orient, which we may look upon as the cradle of the art of perfumery, the idea suggested itself early to substitute for the delicious fragrance of the flowers some substances of lasting odor. Various sweet-scented resins supplied the material for this purpose. The use of these aromatic resins must have been very extensive. The ancient Egyptians alone consumed extraordinary quantities for embalming their dead. How highly the Oriental peoples in general prized perfumes can be learned from the Song of Solomon, where mention is made of Indian perfumes, for instance, cinnamon, spikenard, myrrh, and aloes. Among the most highly civilized people of antiquity, the Greeks, a large number of fragrant substances, as well as oils perfumed with them was known. This will be no surprise to those familiar with the culture of this remarkable people. The odor of violets was the favorite among the Greeks. Besides this, they used the scent of the different mints, thyme, marjoram, and other aromatic plants. This was carried so far as to become a matter of fashion for the Greek folk to use only certain odors in the form of ointments for the hair, others for the neck, and so on. In order to prevent this luxury, which was carried to such an excess, Solon even promulgated a law that interdicted the sale of fragrant oils to Athenian men. The law did not apply to the women. The Romans, who were the pupils of the Greeks in all the arts, carried the luxury with perfumes perhaps even farther. In ancient Rome there was a very numerous guild of perfumers called Ungentrii. They are said to have had a street to themselves in Capua. A patrician Roman anointed himself 3 times daily with precious, sweet-scented oils which he personally took along into his bath in golden vessels of exquisite workmanship, so-called nartheci. At the funeral of his wife Poppaea, Nero is said to have used as incense more odorous substances than could be produced in 1 year in Arabia, at that time the only reputed source of perfumes. This luxury went so far that during the games in the open amphitheaters, the whole air was filled with sweet odors ascending from numerous censers arranged in a circle. The apartments of well-to-do Romans always contained large and very valuable urns filled with dried blossoms, to keep the air permanently perfumed. Roman extravagance with perfumes was carried to such an excess that under the consulate of Crassus a law was passed which restricted the use of perfumery, there being good reason to fear that there would not be enough for the ceremonies in the temples. With the migration of the almost savage Huns and Goths, the refinement of morals ceased, progress in civilization was slowed for centuries, and at the same time the use of perfumes disappeared entirely in Europe, but it was otherwise in the East. It was the trade with the East brought about by the Crusades that made Europeans again more familiar with the art of perfumery, and a number of new odors rapidly became known. Italy and France, in those times the representatives of culture, were the countries in which the preparation of perfumes was carried on a large scale. Thus, for instance, we find the name of a Roman family preserved to the present day because one of its members had combined a sweet-scented powder, called frangipani after its inventor, which is still in favor, and because his grandson Mauritius Frangipani had made the important discovery that by treating this powder with spirit of wine the fragrant substance could be obtained in a fluid form. In the 16th century, especially at the court of Queen Elizabeth, perfumes were used with great extravagance, in fact, were looked upon as one of the necessaries of life. This luxury was carried still farther at the courts of the sumptuous kings of France. Louis XV went so far as to demand every day a different odor for his apartments. A lady's lover always used the same kind of perfume she did. Hundreds of different aromatic substances are now known, and still they are far from being exhausted. Every year new odoriferous plants become known, from which the chemist extracts perfumes. By this means, as well as by the enormous employment of perfumes in all grades of society, the art of their preparation has risen to a higher plane, out of empiricism into the domain of the chemical sciences.